It began as a Queensland dream to stage a 6-month-long celebration that would be the crowning highlight of Australia's bicentenary. To nominate Brisbane as host city for World Expo 88. There were plenty of pessimists, doubts that Brisbane, a laid-back city of barely 1 million people, could succeed where other greater and more sophisticated metropolises had failed. But there was one thing the skeptics had overlooked, something that Queenslanders carried in their hearts, a quality that was recognised by the Bureau of International Expositions. Expo would succeed because of the Queensland spirit. By April 30th, 1988, we were ready to show the world. Brisbane had met the first part of the challenge, that many hadn't dared to accept. The real test lay ahead. Could we keep the party going for 6 long months?
Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a big countdown from 10? Here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Emotions were supercharged on opening day. None of us could have guessed what was in store as the world came together in celebration under those soaring sun sails. The Queensland spirit was transformed into the Expo spirit, and we could barely contain it while Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth and His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh took centre stage for the official opening ceremonies.
It gives me great pleasure to be here in Brisbane and to open a major international exhibition and a highlight of Australia's bicentennial calendar. I congratulate those who had the vision to conceive this second World Exposition in Australia, and those whose dedication and talent went into its organization, planning, and setting up. I now declare World Expo 88 well and truly open.
Even the most hard-boiled critic couldn't have remained untouched by the Expo's spirit on that magical day. Wherever you went, it was in the air. People ate and drank, queued for pavilions, soaked up the entertainment, and devoured the sights and sounds of a new experience. Sundown was just the signal for Expo to shift into overdrive. The day couldn't wind up any other way. The fireworks and laser show was like a collective last gasp, a final burst of enthusiasm to cap a day never to be forgotten. As the skies over Brisbane lit up, we knew we'd made a great start, that the seeds of success had been sown. But even in those euphoric moments of pride and optimism, nobody could have guessed that World Expo 88 would power on to more than double the best attendance predictions, and that it would succeed beyond our wildest dreams, to take its place in history as one of the most successful world expositions ever. What was it that made Expo the center of so many people's lives and generated a lifetime of precious memories? You can't identify it in neat terms. There's no simple definition. Everyone found something special about it. And maybe by reliving some of those special things, we can come a little closer to an answer. The national and corporate pavilions were the heart of Expo. They reflected the Expo 88 theme of leisure in the age of technology. But they were more than that. They opened windows to the world, showing us a glimpse of one another's lives, broadening our horizons, opening our minds. We each have our favorites, and by touching upon a few here, perhaps we can bring the individual memories flooding back. The Queensland Pavilion was always certain to be an emotional favorite, but as it turned out, our pavilion won a lot of fans on its own merits. The pavilion's People Mover was enormously successful, carrying visitors on a spectacular ride through 8 theatres, showing Queensland from the city to the reef.
Welcome to the Great Barrier Reef.
The rainforests, the beaches, and the typical country pub, all from a humorous perspective.
I've mustered more head of cattle a day than what you've had on dinner.
Add to that the spectacle of the monorail gliding through a luxuriant Queensland rainforest, and you have some good reasons why it was more than just host city favoritism that had people standing in line. The Swiss were also in the people-moving business in more ways than one. People keen to get off the ground, in the literal sense, made for big lineups at the Switzerland Pavilion's chairlift. The greatest attraction for the more adventurous souls lay in the ski slope. Would-be powder hounds could put themselves to the test, and styles varied from the oh-so-pro to get down as best you can. Mostly, the Switzerland Pavilion meant fun, and that's what kept people coming back for more. Judging by the crowds at the USSR Pavilion, it seems like a lot of people were eager to get a look behind the legendary Iron Curtain. Nobody was disappointed either. It was all smiles from the Russian pavilion staff, coupled with a great deal of pride and eagerness to show something of their country and their culture. The USSR had filled their pavilion with a complete cross-section of interests. Traditional crafts were demonstrated alongside the personal creative works of leading Russian scientists. Priceless religious artifacts reflected the nation's Orthodox faith in stark contrast to a futuristically abstract impression of the human biosystem. Revolutionary surgical procedures were revealed that gave a startling insight into Russia's medical prowess.
Темный лес склоняется с боков, грезятся нам образы былого, грустные напевы ямщиков.
Finally, a panorama of leisure, sport, and high technology. World Expo 88 created many firsts, not least of all being the first expo in which the Vatican had participated in its own right. The Pavilion of the Holy See was more than a place of pilgrimage for the faithful. The collection of fabulous treasures, artworks, artifacts, and vestments was little short of awe-inspiring. 300 individual pieces had been assembled, many being displayed publicly for the first time. To walk through the dramatically dark halls of the pavilion and catch the gleam of gold, silver, and precious stones was an experience that compelled many people to repeat visits. Expo invited people to join in. And for those of us who'd like to pick up the invitation, the USA, more than any other pavilion, gave us the chance to get into a hands-on situation. The baseball speed test caught everyone's imagination and produced some very interesting techniques as people strained to match the dizzy speeds of American League heroes. Elsewhere in the USA Pavilion, potential Greg Normans were given the chance to demonstrate their prowess. Rowers could go up against the machine, and the less athletically inclined could just sit back and relax. The popularity of the USA Pavilion quickly grew, and so did the queues. But waiting to get in was made a lot easier as pavilion visitors were treated to displays of athletic agility, American style. At the China Pavilion, the lines of people wound like a dragon from way down the expo site, through the traditional arches and into the wonders of ancient China. The superb examples of Chinese art that unfolded inside the pavilion were enough to loosen the tightest purse strings, and many China Pavilion visitors took away mementos to accompany the memories of their Expo visit to China. The greatest attraction of the Japan Pavilion was its startling contrast. Probably a reflection of Japan itself, the pavilion managed to combine technology with tradition. There was a dramatic introduction to this theme right at the entrance. A pair of industrial robots, normally accustomed to performing infinitely precise mechanical tasks, had been transformed as the leading performers of the traditional shishi-mai. Inside, there was something for everyone. People stood 10 deep to catch a glimpse of a walk through ancient Japan with the expert guidance of a video-projected tour guide.
2 weeks to walk there. This is the get-up we wear on the pilgrimage, kekko, kaha, and these rice straw sandals are waraji. This is a yatate, and it's got ink and a brush in it.
Nothing was overlooked, including a futuristic message of peace and goodwill. Outside the pavilion, the traditional Japanese garden became a welcome refuge for expo goers beginning to experience technology overload. By the size of the queues at the New Zealand pavilion, you'd have thought they were giving away gold.
They reckon New Zealand's good. I'm going to find out for myself.
I've been to New Zealand and I think it's absolutely fabulous, and we just want to revisit it all again.
You know, I've done 32 so far and I've come back 4 times, so there's nobody yet. So I'm not getting off now for these 2 hours. Blow that for a joke.
Wandering through the giant kauri forest was pure bliss. Birdsong blended with the music of waterfalls, and sunlight filtered through giant ferns to create one of Expo's simplest pleasures. If the New Zealanders had contributed nothing else, the kauri forest alone would have won them a lot of friends. It was pretty obvious that the people from the 7 island nations of the South Pacific Village were at Expo to enjoy themselves. The feeling was quickly picked up by everyone who crowded in to catch the performances. Besides that, the village itself was an oasis of green coolness. Palm trees, exotic ferns, waterfalls, thatched huts, and the music of the South Seas were balm to people who were expoed out. Strolling around gave you the chance to watch traditional craftspeople at work, or to simply take in the many excellent examples on display. By night, the flare of torches reflected in the lagoon, the soft rustle of palm trees, and the captivating rhythm of the islands drew people irresistibly to the village. For the staff of television station Brisbane 10, it was business almost as usual at Expo. To run a fully operational newsroom and studio facility in full view of the public was no mean feat, but they did it. For the public, accustomed to seeing only the end result on their screens, the Brisbane 10 studios gave the chance to peek behind the scenes, and every news broadcast from the official Expo television station played to a full house.
I like it. Prost! Prost alle miteinander! Prost! What do you say?
For a lot of us, World Expo 88 was a case of eat, drink and be merry, for tomorrow we diet. Tramping up and down the 40-hectare site produced some very healthy appetites and some mighty thirsts, so it's not surprising that Expo's many and varied eateries did a roaring trade. In the Munich Festhaus, the band umparred up a storm, and down in the audience it was a sea of sauerkraut, steins and song. Over 1 million litres of beer went down parched throats and probably went a long way to producing the boisterously good-humoured atmosphere. Not to be outdone, the Britannia Inn turned on the celebrations in the best traditions of the true English pub. Inside, it was a slice of pure England, and even outside in the warm Queensland sunshine, the atmosphere was still there.
There's no other girl I would wait for, but this one I break any date for. She won't have to.
We developed a real taste for pork pies, fish and chips, and roast beef with Yorkshire pud, not to mention the odd pint of best bitter or dark, creamy Guinness. In other words, the best of British.
Can understand why I'm leaning on a lamppost at the corner of the street.